Welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to News Stories every day. My name is Alyssa Grant. I used to think I was the last woman on earth who'd ever cheat on her husband. We had what looked like a near perfect life in Charleston, South Carolina. Two kids, Ryan, 12, and Emma, 9, a beautiful home, and my husband, Michael, who's always been steady, if a bit distant at times. I thought we were normal, that my restlessness was just me being bored. But sometimes an inch of restlessness is all it takes to push you off a cliff. It began innocently, too innocently. I met Dominic at a local fitness club. He was charming, confident, and always asked the right questions about how my day was going. I told myself it was just a harmless friendship, a little flirtation. Then one afternoon, we ended up having coffee. Next, it was a glass of wine after my workout. Before I knew it, I was calling him when Michael was out. All the while, my heart hammered with guilt. But I told myself I deserved a little thrill, especially since Michael and I had been drifting apart. We'd argued about the smallest things, finances, the kids' schedules, my constant feeling that he didn't see me. I thought if he'd just pay attention, maybe I wouldn't feel so invisible. I fought the idea of an actual affair for weeks. The thought of betraying Michael, the father of my children, made me sick to my stomach. Yet Dominic's presence was addictive. He flattered me, told me I was captivating in a way my husband never said. Eventually, I caved. We slept together one stormy night after meeting just for dinner. It happened twice. Both times I was flooded with instant regret. It wasn't what I hoped for. It wasn't love. It wasn't a fix to my problems. It felt cheap, overshadowed by the crushing weight of what I was risking. I told Dominic we should end it. I felt relief, certain that if I never mentioned it to Michael, we could go on with our lives. I'd made a terrible mistake, but I wanted to bury it. And for nearly a year, that's what I did. During that year, everything seemed to go back to normal on the surface. I never breathed a word to Michael about my two-night fling. The kids were thriving. Ryan was crushing it in middle school basketball. Emma was dancing in a local ballet group. Michael was still Michael, serious, deliberate, a man with a plan. He'd taken a new job with more stable hours, and we were even talking about expanding the house or taking a big family trip. There were times I thought maybe it's fine. Maybe I can hide this forever and keep us together. Yet guilt ate at me. Nights would come when Michael would brush my hair back and kiss my forehead, and I'd want to cry from the shame. He had no idea, and I told myself maybe that was for the best. Why hurt him with a confession about something that was over? I never dreamed Dominic would come back into my life, let alone bring chaos with him. But that's exactly what happened. One afternoon, just as I got home from picking the kids up, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I answered, half expecting a telemarketer. Instead, a familiar voice. Dominic quietly. Alyssa, it's me. My throat went dry. Dom. Why are you calling me? It's been a year. Comic. I need to see you. I can't stop thinking about us. About that time we had. I know you said it was over, but I don't think it has to be. My heart pounded. I told you it was a mistake. We're done. Dominic, voice tightening. I'm not done. I tried moving on, but it's not the same. Listen, I want you back. Let's meet tonight, or I'll come by. You never gave me a real goodbye. It ended too fast. I felt a cold chill. We ended it for a reason. Don't do this, Dom. He inhaled sharply. Well, it's your choice, but I'm not leaving. Not unless we settle this properly. He hung up, leaving me rattled. The next day, he texted me incessantly. We parted wrong. I still want you. I'm not happy. And then the threat. If you ignore me, maybe your husband and kids deserve to hear the truth. Panic coiled in my chest. He was threatening to blow up my entire life if I didn't at least talk to him again. I tried ignoring him for a while, but he was persistent. And I was terrified. If he told Michael, I'd lose everything. For a few days, I contemplated giving in to Dominic's demands, meeting him in secret, but my gut screamed that it would only make matters worse. I realized I had to do something else, but fear and indecision got the better of me. Late one evening, Dominic cornered me in the grocery store parking lot. I just finished picking up cereal for the kids. He appeared beside my car like a ghost, whispered, Dominic, Alyssa, talk to me or I'm done playing nice. Your husband might appreciate some details about us. He gave a smug half smile that made me want to scream. Me trembling. Fine, we'll talk, but I'm not sleeping with you again, okay? He shrugged. We'll see. So I agreed to meet him the next night in a coffee shop across town. My logic, perhaps if I just listened to him, he'd relent. We could end this cleanly with no blackmail. Another big mistake. When we met, he tried to woo me all over again, talking about our connection, how unhappy he was, how I was the only woman who ever truly understood him. I was stone-faced, repeating, I don't want you. I love my family and I made a mistake. He grew agitated, eventually slamming his cup down. You owe me more than just a goodbye, he hissed. Remember, your kids might not forgive you if they find out you messed up. I left that cafe shaking, tears in my eyes. By the time I reached home, I knew I had to confess to Michael. Hiding it was giving Dominic power to blackmail me. I might lose everything, but letting Dominic torment me was worse. I waited until the kids were asleep. Michael was in the living room reading on his tablet. My heart hammered as I knelt beside him, tears forming. Me, voice quivering. Michael, I have to tell you something, and it's bad. It's about last year while you were busy with that big work project. I cheated. He blinked, setting down his tablet. What are you talking about? That's not funny. Me? I'm not joking. It was two nights with a man named Dominic. It's over, but he came back and he's threatening. I'm so sorry, but I can't let him hold this over me. I had to tell you. I'm sorry. His face paled, eyes wide with shock, then a fury I've never seen. You. What? You had an affair. When? I explained haltingly how it happened for a brief moment. I ended it, never told him. The year we'd spent planning to have another child, all while I was carrying this secret. He stared, stunned. Then anger flared. Michael, almost shouting, you let me think we were building a bigger family, that we were stable, while you'd slept with some random guy. And you hid it for a year. I sobbed, nodding frantically. I'm so sorry. I was scared, and he's blackmailing me now. I had no choice but to tell you. For a moment, I thought he'd break down. Instead, he stood up, face cold. He marched to the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and began yanking his clothes from the closet. Me, Michael, wait, can we talk? Please, I beg you, don't go. We can fix. He spun around, raw fury in his eyes. Fix what? You lied to me for a year. You let me look like a fool. And now you want my pity because your lover's blackmailing you. God, Alyssa, how could you? He stormed outside. I followed, tears streaming, as he headed to the driveway. Then something snapped in him. He grabbed a small crowbar from the trunk. Before I could stop him, he swung in at the windshield of my car. Glass cracked into a web of shards. I screamed, covering my mouth. Michael, voice shaking, you use our car for your little secret fling too, right? Here's what I think of that. I backed away, fear mingling with heartbreak. He tossed the crowbar aside, breathing heavily, glaring at me like a stranger. Then he marched back inside, collected valuables, some electronics, documents. I stood helpless. Kids were asleep, oblivious to the meltdown outside. He reemerged with a bag. Michael, I'm leaving. Don't call me. I'll come back for the kids or we'll figure out custody. Plus, we're done. Then he drove off in his Sedan, tires screeching. I sank to the curb, sobbing uncontrollably, wind chilling me under the night sky, while my shattered windshield sparkled under the porch light. My perfect illusions were gone. The next day, word spread quickly. Our neighbors noticed the busted windshield. Some approached me with concern. I lamely said there was an argument. Meanwhile, the kids woke up to find Dad gone. Ryan demanded, where's Dad? Why is your car wrecked? Emma clung to me, looking confused. Within a week, Michael filed for divorce. He took the kids for a few days. Then we hashed out a messy schedule. My heart broke doubly when I realized how each child responded differently. Ryan, older, was protective of me. He stayed by my side, even saying Dad shouldn't have left you alone. But Emma idolized her father, furious at me for making him leave. She'd pry every night, refusing to talk to me. On top of that, Dominic's blackmail threat became moot once I confessed. He tried texting me, what about your kids, though? Did you mention the details? I blocked him. He apparently bragged to some people about ruining a marriage, but I no longer cared. The damage was done. I was losing my family. In the months that followed, the divorce soared through the court system. Michael was so cold, so final. He had found a place to stay, some old friend. I tried begging for forgiveness, writing letters about how I'd made a mistake, how I wanted us to be a family again. None of it reached him. He refused counseling. You had a year to come clean, he said once. Why do you only do it when threatened? I had no defense. He was right. My regret was overwhelming when it wasn't enough. The judge finalized our divorce, awarding joint custody with a split schedule. Ryan stuck around me more often, though I felt guilty, while Emma mostly wanted to be at her dad's place. So the household was broken in two. I wept at night, burying my face in a pillow that once smelled like Michael's cologne, but he was gone perhaps for good. 7, 3 years apart. Time dragged. Over the next 3 years, Michael moved on in ways that stung me. I heard from mutual acquaintances that he'd started dating a woman named Sarah, eventually living with her. My kids mentioned Dad's girlfriend in passing. Each mention felt like a knife twist, but I knew I had no right to protest. I tried to reshape my life, half the time with Ryan and Emma, half the time alone in a too-quiet house. I'd worked more hours, saved money to fix up the car windows. Yet every time I saw that new windshield, I remembered the night he'd smashed it in rage. A testament to my betrayal. I tried dating once or twice, but everything felt forced, overshadowed by guilt. I told myself I had to accept the consequences. Yet, ironically, the adversity changed me. I grew more honest with myself, more appreciative of loyalty, more attuned to my kids' emotional needs. Over time, Emma softened, allowing me to be part of her life again. Meanwhile, Ryan grew up, noticing my regrets but supporting me all the same. Slowly, I learned not to hide from my mistakes. They became part of my story. Out of the blue, 3 years after that disastrous night, Michael showed up at my door. I still remember the jolt of seeing him on the porch. Hair slightly different, shoulders set. He said, "Hey, can we talk?" My heart pounded. "Sure," I mumbled, stepping aside to let him in. The kids were out, ironically, so it was just us in the living room. He told me he'd ended things with Sarah, that he realized maybe he had a different path. He spoke calmly, no visible anger. "I guess I'm done living in bitterness," he said. "And the kids, they keep asking about us being a family. I'm not saying I forgive everything, but do you think we can find a way to move forward?" My eyes brimmed with tears. I'd never imagined him offering a second chance. "Michael, I don't deserve your kindness," I whispered. "But if you're asking if we can start over, I'm willing to try. I'm so sorry for everything. I never stopped loving you." He nodded, swallowing. "I won't promise it'll be easy, but maybe we can see if there's any love left that's worth salvaging. Maybe for the kids, too." We tested the waters for a few months, seeing each other more, co-parenting with less friction. Emma was overjoyed. Ryan was cautious but hopeful. Eventually, Michael proposed we relocate somewhere fresh, a new environment to bury old ghosts. So we sold our separate homes, and all four of us moved to a coastal town in North Carolina near the ocean. He found a job at a tech firm. I took a remote marketing position, and we rented a charming beachside house. The children lit up at the idea of living near the water. I expected it to be awkward, but surprisingly, it felt like a renewed chance. We walked on the shore at dusk, the kids collecting shells. Michael and I held hands tentatively, aware of the scars. Some nights, I'd see a flicker of pain in his eyes if I brought up the past, but he was trying to let it go. We were forging a new life from the rubble. I felt unbelievably lucky that he'd come back, giving me grace I probably didn't deserve. Now that we're here by the ocean, I can't say everything is perfect. Trust is still fragile. Some nights I see him lost in thought, and I wonder if he's replaying my betrayal. But we're better than we were, oddly, more honest. He calls me out if he senses I'm hiding something. I do the same if I sense resentment brewing in him. We talk. We cry together. We hold the kids close. Strangely, as I reflect on it, part of me acknowledges that while I deeply regret the pain I caused, I wouldn't change my past, because in some twisted way it shaped me into someone who appreciates loyalty, cherishes family, and faces mistakes head on. My mistakes forced me to see my own flaws, my capacity for deception. Without that crash, maybe we'd never have confronted the cracks in our marriage. I share this not as a justification for cheating, far from it. I share it as a testament that people are flawed, that sometimes you lose everything before you understand its value. I'm grateful Michael came back, that we're forging a new path, that the kids have both parents under one roof again. And yes, a small part of me is also grateful for the lessons, however painful, because they taught me to never take love or truth for granted. If someone asked me, would you do it all again? I'd say no to the hardtack, no to the betrayal, but ironically, yes to the growth. Because standing here on the sand, watching the sunset with my family, I realize life's second chances can be fragile miracles, and I have no illusions left about my own capacity to harm or to heal. I choose healing. I choose honesty. If that means living forever with the memory of my mistakes, so be it. It's a price worth paying for the new life we've built, the new me I've become.